Hello, stream. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Hey, what's up, Ria? Are you kidding me? I love Tracer. Or should I say, Gayser? Is everybody tired of that joke yet? I'll never be tired of that joke. But she is a precious baby, and I love her. And I am so happy for her and Emily. All right, motherfuckers, we're getting real casual here today. Kicking the feet up on the desk. Let's read a book. Cheers, love. The cavalry's queer. It's the best. It's the best thing. All right, chapter 6. Lauren returned to her quarters along. I feel like update. No, I showed the books on last stream. We finalized the publishing of Mystic and ordered our stock quantities. Those are going to ship out to Amazon. We don't need to do an update unless somebody asks a question. Hey, what's up, KJ Jones? Bodegazilla. Chapter 6. Lauren returned to her quarters along with Chet and Jem, and there Zane left them for the rest of the day. But he returned at dusk, bringing them fine clothes to wear. He handed the boys their outfits, but when he came to Lauren, he paused. I did not know which you would rather wear, he said. I brought you fine trousers. Oh, too many fines. I've brought you trousers of dyed black leather to wear with a blouse and a vest if you wish it. That is the sort of clothing I have always seen you in. But I also have here a dress. I'm not sure if it is quite your size, and I had to clothe you or choose the cut. I am no expert in these things, you understand. And sky above, Zane, she said, laughing at his sudden awkwardness. Let me look at the thing. Hey, Clundy Man, can we get an update? What updates do we want? I don't know what to update you guys on. The Office Productivity channel in Discord has been really super awesome, so if you're not in our Discord already, you should join up. I need a desk that's just slightly wider than the one that I have, so that I have a space over here. Like, I don't have room over here to kick my heels up on the edge of the desk itself. Let me see. Oh, I could do a little bit of this action. Yeah, this is good. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Get those feet right in there. If you got a foot fetish, this is your channel. Although, if that's the case, you probably don't like them to be covered in socks. I got Darkfire from Karen. I got the Darkfire edit back from Karen. And now I'm in this huge quandary. Because I want to work on Darkfire, but I also want to work on the Alchemist's Touch. And the Alchemist's Touch, once that's done, then I don't have any more books to fix. We just have final edits on all the books. So I want to get the Alchemist Touch done and get that off to Karen so that that's off the thing. But the more I think about it, the more I might need to work on Darkfire, because the volume is coming out in March, and we have a firm date on when the volume is re-releasing, because we got a firm date from Podium on when the audiobook is re-releasing, or when the audiobook is releasing for the first time, and it's March 14th. Now, working everything back, March 14th, that means that I need to send stock to Amazon by like March 7th, and they aren't going to order it. They aren't going to order it until, and if I need to get it to them on March 7th, they're going to order it on March 1st. And if they order it on March 1st, that means I need to submit it on February 21st. And if I need to order it on February 21st, that means I need to order it from CreateSpace on February 7th. And if I need to order it on February 7th, that means that the book needs to be done and I need to have a proof copy by February 1st. And that's 10 days away. So I probably need to focus on Darkfire as soon as I have finished this final read-through of Weremage. I am going to finish Weremage. That's happening no matter, period, no matter what. But there you go. Yeah. I need to hurry up. Yes, exactly. So with all that being said, knowing that the one thing that I am definitely going to do is finish Weremage, I'm going to try and work on finishing Weremage. He had draped it over his arm and now he held it out. Oh, sky above, Zane, she said, laughing at his sudden awkwardness. Let me look at the thing. Zane lifted it from his arm. Lauren went still at the sight of it, her breath escaping in a soft sigh. Hesitantly, she reached out and took it, marveling at the feeling of the cloth between her fingertips. It was as blue as the ocean and worked through with thin threads of sea green and delicate patterns like tree leaves. Hey, Rhea. Yeah, you definitely don't want to listen to this if you haven't read Weremage yet. She had never seen a fabric that shimmered just so, reflecting the torchlight when she turned it over in her hands. Its sleeves ran all the way to the wrists, where they closed with small buttons of some cream-colored stone she had never seen before. It is a silly thing, I know, he said at once, looking embarrassed as he pursed his lips at it. Most likely you do not... I do not often wear dresses, said Lauren. The last one I owned was made by my mother, and she intended for me to wear it at a dance, the very night you and I met. To wear it to a dance. To a dance. To a dance. Yeah, just mute me. She pressed the dress to herself, smiling softly at him. I ground dirt into that dress with my heel and spat on it, for I hated her. But this one I will keep. It is beautiful. Then she frowned. I hope you do not expect me to wear it often. I could not possibly mount a horse in this thing. He laughed and ran a hand through his hair. Of course not, and you will find little occasion for dresses in Ammon, I assure you. But I am glad you like it, regardless. When Chet saw her in the dress, he could not stop staring, and in the end she had to force him to continue getting dressed himself. Once they were ready and Lauren had donned her black cloak, Zane led them out of the palace and into the streets of the city, heading southwest. Lamps burned from the corners of many buildings along the way, lending the city a cheery look despite the cut of the frigid air. Do. Just realized I forgot to do one thing. Moment, please. Moment. Hey, poops. Okay, there we go. All right. Once they were ready and Lauren and donned her black cloak, Zane led them out of the palace and into the streets of the city, heading southwest. Lamps burned from the corners of many buildings along the way, lending the city a cheery look despite the cut of the frigid air. The city was full of people... The seat was full of people about their business, and if there were more soldiers, among the crowds than there had been a few weeks ago, still the mood was cheerful and boisterous, with much laughter and songs that poured from nearly every tavern they passed. The rebuilding of the seat had raised the mood. The rebuilding of the lending the island a cheery look despite the cut of the rebuilding of the city. The rebuilding of the city had raised the mood of all upon it. No. The island was full of people about their business. If there were more soldiers among the crowd than there had been a few weeks ago, still the mood was cheerful and boisterous, with much laughter, etc., etc. The rebuilding of the seat had raised the mood of all upon it, and there was a sense in those who dwelled there that the war, if indeed it ever came, would be a short and simple affair, and no source of great trouble or worry. Zane stopped before a tavern, and over its door Lauren saw a stag painted in silver. The silver stag from the Academy Journals. Just making sure everybody got that. Inside, a bright fire burned in the wide hearth, and the lamps along the walls lit the place almost as brightly as the sun. I think I say that too often. And the lamps along the walls Demon Tomato Dave. Inside, a bright fire burned in the wide hearth, and the lamps along the walls strengthened the warm glow of the place. its warm glow. Yay! Yes, I'm watching. I'm definitely paying attention to what you're doing. All right. Inside, a fire burned in the wide hearth, and the lamps along the walls strengthened its warm glow. Zane introduced them briefly to the matron, Kanda, and she showed them to a table where they found well-cushioned chairs with intricate designs carved into the wood. When the food came, they found that it tasted nearly as delightful as the place looked. Seldom had Lauren tasted any meat so finely spiced, even in the palace, and there were sweet roasted fruits, the likes of which she had never seen before. The wine, too, was uncommonly good, and she wondered how much Zane had paid for it all. When she asked him, he shushed her with a wave of his hand. Tonight we are not concerned with such things, he said. Tonight we think only of having one last happy memory together, at least until the next time we meet. Speaking of meetings, said Jem, who had snuck himself a cup of wine when Lauren was not looking. Jem's turning into a little alcoholic. I've had a thought recently. How in all the skeins of time did the two of you meet each other? I've never heard the tale. Lauren blinked. She had told Chet the story, of course, but then they had spent far more time together since their reunion in Northwood. But she had never thought to tell Jem, for their journey together had consisted of one flight from danger after another. So she settled back in her chair and told the story now of how she had caught Zane running through the birchwood and had begged him to take her with him. She skipped briefly over the description of her father and the reason she wished to flee, and Jem did not press her for more details. But when she reached the part of the tale where they slept that first night on the riverbank, she scowled at Zane in mock fury and brandished her wine cup at him. And then this buffoon, darkness take him, abandoned me on the riverbank. Zane's cheeks burned red, and he had to force a smile. I did. Though in my defense, I thought it would be safer for you. Oh, yes, very safe, said Lauren, leaning over to Jem and muttering conspiratorially. It only landed the constables hot on my heels, and then dropped me in the lap of Damaris of the family Yaren, who, you will remember, has tried to kill me more than once. The wizard barked a laugh. And do you think I planned for that? They argued over that for a bit, and then Lauren went on with the story, and by the time she had come to the part where Jem entered into it, the boy was so tired that he had nearly fallen asleep in his food. Jem's a lot like me. If he's not in the story, he gets bored. Oh. He perked up at the mention of his own name, but almost immediately his head began to sag again. Ugh. Lauren looked towards the door. Towards the door. This was one of my favorite scenes that I've ever written because it's great to see Lauren and Zane reflecting on the events of Nightblade and being able to have an opinion about it for sure, but being able to be like relatively good-natured about it, because like Zane was a dick, still is a dick in some respects. All right. Lauren looked towards the door, wondering what time it was. The common room was not so full as it had been when they entered, but there were more than enough patrons to keep it open for some hours more. Her heart sank at the thought of ending their night so soon, and she looked reluctantly at Zane. He gave her a sad smile. Then Chet stood from his chair. It grows late, and our urchin is almost asleep where he sits. I will see him safely to the palace and leave you two be. Lauren blinked at him. You need not do that. I can come with you. Stay, said Chet, smiling and putting a hand on her shoulder. You and I have all the coming journey together, and many days after that as well, but your time with Zane is nowhere near so plentiful and should be savored. And besides, it would be a crime if you did not spend as much time in that dress as you possibly can, for I do not know when you shall get to wear it again. Her sight grew misty, and she wondered if she had had too much wine. Thank you, she murmured. Chet smiled and forced a grumbling Jem to his feet, and then walked the boy out into the night. He is worth more than his weight in gold, that one, said Zane quietly. Do not forget it. I will not, said Lauren. All our lives he has cared for me, and some time ago that care grew into a love unlike any I have seen before. I only worry that it is too much, for if his feelings for me ever caused him harm, I could not bear it. Zane cocked his head. You speak as though love blooms in his heart only. Lauren shook her head quickly. No, of course not. I love him as well, only I do not... She's not going to realize that they don't love each other the same until the end of the book. This conversation needs to be adjusted slightly. A reputable corgi breeder? Because Zane hits the matter like way too much on the head. What is he trying to say? I will not. All our lives. I will not. All our lives he has cared for me, and some time ago that care grew into a love unlike any I have seen before. I only worry that it is too much, for if his feelings for me ever caused him harm, I could not bear it. Zane cocked his head. You speak as though you regret his feelings for you. Lauren shook her head quickly. No, of course not. How could I when I love him as well? Only sometimes I think he sees me as more than I am. Mayhap, said Zane. Or mayhap you see yourself as less than you are. She did not know what to say to that, and so they sat for a while in comfortable silence. Lauren finished her cup of wine, and Zane refilled it with the rest of the bottle. They sipped gingerly, and Lauren could sense the same hesitance in the wizard that she herself felt, a reluctance to move on, to see this night end and the next step in their journey begin. It was Zane who broke the silence. Lauren, I must ask you something. Do you still carry your dagger? She tensed. Yes. You mean to bring it with you, he said, studying her. I do. What else would I do with it? His eyes grew far away, staring over her shoulder. I do not know. Once you asked me if you should throw it into the great bay. Mayhap you should do that now. I fear what might happen if Cal should learn that you have it. Jordell was worried enough about it, and he was a much more forgiving man. I wish I were going with you. Lauren frowned. Cal was Jordell's master, and Jordell was the one who told me the truth of the blade in the first place. I had hoped to tell Cal of it and seek his counsel. Zane leaned forwards and shook his head, speaking in a low voice. I do not think that would be wise. He seemed a man more prone to pragmatism than to kindness. Jordell did not press you to rid yourself of the dagger because he trusted you. Though we met him only briefly, I do not know that Cal trusts anyone. If indeed you keep the dagger in your possession, you should not tell him of it. She pursed her lips. Very well, I shall keep it a secret. Promise me. Lauren rolled her eyes. I promise you. He smiled. You are too confident in yourself by half, but it is one of your endearing qualities. I hope you will send my regards to Annis by the by, as well as my apologies. That girl will never have much affection for me, I fear. Who would? Said Lauren, raising her brows and drinking deep of her wine. Careful now, said Zane, scowling with mock severity. Have you not heard I am a mighty fire mage? I might catch you in my flame. Lauren chuckled. It is good to see you happy, Zane. You have not had much occasion for joy since I have known you. And when Jordell... She paused for a moment, swallowing past a lump in her throat. When Jordell told me how you used to be... Before you fled the seat, I mean, I could scarcely believe it. Now I see that he did not tell me even half of the truth. Zane's eyes sparked with interest. I never knew that. What did he tell you? Do you wish to hear tales of your praise? She teased. He said that you were mayhap too quick to anger, but you were quick to laugh as well. He said that was how you earned yourself favor among the great, especially the Lord Prince. When I met Eamon, I could not understand why he would befriend such a dour man as yourself, but I have since seen a new part of you, and I am glad. If this is how you were before you left the seat, then I would not take you away from it for all the gold in the 9 kingdoms. The wizard's eyes shone with tears for a moment. He cleared his throat and then slapped his hand on the table abruptly. Come, I wish to show you something. Lauren straightened. What? Where? It is the middle of the night. All the better, said Zane. Come. She hesitated a moment more, but Zane had already stood and was making for the bar. There he spoke briefly to Kanda, and after he placed a pair of coins in her palm, she handed him 2 more bottles of wine. One of these he placed in Lauren's hand before drawing her through the room and out into the street. Chapter 7! The night was no longer young, and the first snow had begun to fall that day. Not enough to cause drifts in the street, but enough that Lauren drew her cloak tighter and blew into the side of her hood to warm her face. Zane led her west in the moonlight, and before long they approached a huge black building surrounded by a wall 10 paces high, all in black granite with silver trim. Lauren stopped short. The academy, she said, a shiver running up her back. Zane, where are we going? Inside, of course, he said. Did you not know that I am the dean? He threw open the front door and strode in. Lauren hastened to follow, looking nervously around. The front hall was wide, with 2 staircases leading up from it in different directions, as well as halls leading to endless rows of doors in all directions. Moonlight poured through the windows high above, though it weakened considerably before it reached the floor, and most of the illumination came from lamps on the walls. She jumped as the door slammed shut behind her and turned to find that an old woman had closed them. As the doors slammed shut behind her. She jumped as the doors slammed shut behind her and turned to find that an old woman had closed them. The woman was short and wizened and had a mad look in her eye, but she ignored Lauren entirely as she returned to her post by the door. Come, said Zane, making for a hallway off to the left. Lauren followed, not daring to trail too far behind. She knew that anyone they met would likely be a wizard. It was a curious thought, for everywhere else in the 9 kingdoms, wizards were a rare thing. She need not have worried, for they did not see anyone until Zane stopped before another thick door, this one made of black wood. Next to the door was a chair, and in the chair was a shriveled crone who could have been the sister of the woman at the front door. The woman's back was not so hunched and her fingers not so gnarled, but her eyes held a mean, cruel sneer. What do you want? She grated, her nose turned up as she observed the bottle of wine Lauren carried. I believe you meant to ask, how may I help you, Dean Foradar, said Zane, and my answer, Karog, is that you may stand aside. Certainly, said Karog, giving him a nasty smile. She hobbled out of the way. Zane stepped forwards and put his hand on the latch, but it did not budge. Lauren saw his shoulders heave with a sigh. He turned. Open the door, Karog. Karog's eyes shot wide with mock innocence. Oh, dearie me, is it locked? Now, where would I have placed the key? It gets so hard to remember these things at my age. She made a great show of fumbling at the pockets of her robes. Zane glared at her. If you have lost the key, then I have no choice but to declare you derelict in your duties and replace you. I am certain Melly will recommend a suitable steward in your stead. In an instant, Karog's face turned to a bitter grimace. Angrily, she thrust a hand into her robes and withdrew a key, which she hastened to turn in the lock. Thank you, Karog, said Zane graciously as he led Lauren within. After the door slammed shut behind them, he smirked. She has hated me ever since I was a student. I would sneak in here often without her knowing. She only caught me twice, but she never forgave me. She is horrid, said Lauren, and age has not improved her. But I am the dean, and no longer need to care about such things. Come and let me show you one of my favorite places. Looking up, Lauren saw that they were in a great circular tower, and then she realized that it was the Academy's bell tower. A wide staircase. We know it's a circle. If the tower is a circle, wouldn't the staircase be a circle? Of course it would. A wide staircase ran along the wall, built into the stone itself, and there high above them was the bell, massive even from this far down. Zane started up the steps, and she followed behind. His pace soon slowed, and she heard him pant heavily. But Lauren had lost none of her hardiness from a lifetime in the forest, and she chuckled as she outpaced him. You are as slow as the day we met, wizard, she said. Now that you are a man of books and learning, do not forget to leave your desk every once in a while, or I shall find you fat and lazy when I return to the seat. Some would be glad to grow fat and happy in their later years, gasped Zane, but he quickened his pace to keep up with her. They reached the top, and Lauren marveled at the sight of it. The bell was surrounded by a wide platform, and at the edge of it was a rail. Beyond that was only open air, so that in all directions She could look out and see the city laid before her like a blanket, but shining with the light of torches and hearths. The wind was stronger here than it had been on the street, but Lauren hardly noticed it, so taken aback was she at the sight before her. Zane, she breathed. This is... It is it not? He said, his smile widening. He guided her to the edge, and there he sat, draping his arms over the railing. Lauren did the same beside him, laying her cloak beneath her so that she did not dirty her dress. From within his coat, Zane pulled his bottle of wine and removed the rag that sealed it. Lauren took that as a signal, and she opened her bottle as well. To the High King Enelin, said Zane, long may she reign and her enemies be vanquished. Till long roads traveled together, said Lauren, long may we remember them. To lengthy roads traveled together, said Lauren, may our memories of them never dim. They tapped the necks of their bottles and drank deep. For a while after that, Lauren was content to enjoy the sights and smells of the city far below and track the slow progress of the moons across the sky as they blotted out one star after another. The wine was the finest they had had so far that night, and half of hers was gone before she realized it. The edges of her vision had begun to grow blurry. She held up the bottle. How much gold have you spent on me tonight, Zane? Zane held up his own wine. On us, you mean? Do you think I would spend a small fortune just to please you? She snorted. I should say not. I've given you no end of reasons to be annoyed with me during our time together. And I have, in turn, made your life horrible upon occasion, said Zane quietly. He drank again from his bottle. Lauren shook her head. Even at its worst, I would not call it horrible. Frightening, yes, and sometimes painful. But horrible was the birchwood. Horrible was my father. Whatever else you have done, you took me away from that. And that would be cause enough for thanks. But I have learned, too, just how honorable you are at your core. That is, when you are not being a colossal idiot. Though she spoke in jest, Zane looked at her solemnly. And you, Lauren of the family Nelda, how could I know when we first met? When first we met is an underrealm convention? When first we met. How could I know when first we met the greatness in your own heart? Were you royalty, I do not doubt you would one day be the High King. Were you a merchant, your family would become the richest in the 9 lands. And as things stand, well, what commoner could claim to be greater than you? He raised his bottle in another toast and then drank deep. You are drunk, Lauren proclaimed, and I mean to join you. She took another swig. Join me? You are further along than I am. Lauren looked up at the moons, which were close to vanishing behind the roof of the bell tower, but that brought thoughts of sleep, which brought thoughts of dreams. Her good mood dampened. Zane, she said carefully, when you ate magestones, she felt him stiffen beside her. I'm sorry, I should not have presumed to ask. It is all right, he said, only that is a tale I would rather not spread through the academy, but none are near us to eavesdrop now. Go on. Did you dream? Said Lauren. I remember when we carried you through the great rocks that you would lie there twitching and moaning at night. He arched an eyebrow at her. What has brought you to such a question? Lauren shrugged. I do not know. It worried me then. There were many things I wondered during those times that I have never had the courage to ask you until now. You seem well recovered, but how can that be when you suffered so terribly? Zane gave a grim chuckle. I did. But no, I did not dream, nor would I have. Magestones have other properties beyond strengthening a wizard's power. They quell the appetite entirely, for one thing. Do you remember how Jordell almost had to force me to eat? And they purge the body of other influences. The remedies of the apothecary have little effect upon a wizard who eats magestones, and the same is true for poisons. And finally, a wizard who consumes the stone does not dream. That is good, said Lauren absent-mindedly. Then she realized how that sounded and hurried to correct herself. I mean, it is a little sad, I suppose, but I am glad you do not have the nightmares I thought you did. Are you worried about last night? Said Zane, his brows drawing close. Lauren, what under the stars did you dream of? I told you I do not remember. She had made a mistake and drawn his thoughts far too close to her secret. I was only wondering if the sickness still troubled you at all. If you should fall back into darkness, I will no longer be here to box your ears and tie you up until you come to your senses. Pushing his shoulder, she flashed him a wide smile. He returned it, and her fear left her. You need not worry on that account. Those dark days are behind me and will never return. I can hardly believe that you and I once conspired to sell those thrice-cursed stones. Do you remember? Of course. It was not so long ago, said Lauren. Zane fixed her with a look. Now that I think of it, that is a piece of information that may yet prove useful. If you remember, I had a contact in Dorsey who I thought might buy the stones. You may have need of such a man. But I no longer wish to sell Magestones, said Lauren, studying him carefully. Of course not any longer, but there are other goods beyond the king's law, and if you do not wish to sell them or buy them, a spy should still know someone who deals in them. Oh, said Lauren. Very well, then. Where might I find him? His name is Weil, and he lives in the city of Bertram. Yes, Bertram. It is in Dorsey, west of the King's Road where it runs by the Great Rocks, halfway between their southern tip and the Moonslight Pass to the north. Very well, said Lauren. If I ever have occasion to visit him, I shall send him your regards. He will not take kindly to that, said Zane with a harsh laugh. You might do better to pretend you never knew me, but now we have spoken over much of such things. It is a fine night, too fine to spend it with talk of Magestones and other dark matters beyond the king's law. I feel as though there are few matters these days which are not dark. That is true enough. This morning I gave my first speech to the academy students. It was in the front hall, the one we passed through. They looked so young and so frightened, and it was my duty to convince them not to be afraid and that I would protect them. But you will, said Lauren. Is that not part of your duty? It is, and I will not abandon it like that faithless steer, Cyrus, said Zane. But I am one man, a wizard, and a strong one, I can say without boasting. Yet I do not know if I have it in me to keep them safe from all harm. To her own great surprise, Lauren squeezed his shoulder. I must be more wine-addled than I thought. No one has that power, but few could come closer to it than you. Your only fault is that you are so stupidly serious about everything. If you can only shed the idea that you bear all the world's burdens, you will do much better. Zane laughed. Wise words from one so young, and I think you may be right. Besides, now that my son has returned to me, I need not worry half so much. I do not jest. You are a great wizard, Zane, and may even be a great man. He lowered his gaze, looking down on the city again. Jordell was a great man, he murmured. For the second time that night, Lauren swallowed past a tightness in her throat. I thought you wished not to speak of dark matters. Even in death, Jordell is a light. That is what you must remember, Lauren. If you think me great, know that I hold you in even higher regard. But you are young, and the 9 lands hold grief enough to fill the lives of all within them. No matter how dark your road may grow, you must remember Jordell. If you live by what he would do, you will rarely go far wrong. With another pang of guilt, she thought of the Magestones. I will remember, she said softly. I have entered the High King's service because of him, after all. Zane's eyes narrowed as though that answer did not entirely satisfy him, but he gave no answer. Another thought struck Lauren. She took a deep breath. Will we ever see each other again, you and I? She thought Zane might answer easily with a casual reassurance. Instead, he shrugged. Who can know? But I think we might. The answer lies more in your hands than mine. My duty will keep me on the seat for the foreseeable future. Yet who knows what fortunes the coming war may bring? I think the war will be over quickly and easily if it is not entirely bloodless, said Lauren. Already it has claimed its share of blood, said Zane, quiet and solemn, and I fear it has only begun. We are among the few who know the true enemy, not the kingdom of Dull Moon, but the Shade's master, the necromancer. Lauren shivered at the name, but she thrust out her hand to him. A promise, then, between you and I. If we survive this war, I will return, and you and I will sit here together again, and here we will stay until all the tales of our journeys have been told. Zane clasped her wrist in agreement, but Lauren seized his wrist and dragged him closer until his nose was almost touching hers, and she scowled. And if you break your word to me this time, I will drag you to the top of this tower and throw you off of it. We will see if you can summon a storm to carry you safely to the ground. The wizard burst out laughing, the longest, loudest, and clearest she had ever heard from him, and it was as if, in an instant, he had cast off all the cares that troubled him, all the way back to before the moment they had met in the birchwood. She did not doubt that laugh could be heard for a great distance in the city below. You have my word, Nightblade. I will hold you to it, Dean Foradar. Her mouth twisted. It sounds odd upon my tongue. And mine, said Zane. But now come. We have spent long enough up here already, and I grow cold. Besides, what would people think if they found... Besides, what would people think if they found the Dean drunk at the top of his own bell tower? He stood and helped her up, and they stumbled down the stairs together, and for the first time in all their journey together, Lauren thought that she could call Zane her true friend. Yay. Alright, gonna take a very short break. Need to use the potty. I don't remember if I have any coffee left, but if I do, I'm gonna have some more. I will be right back. Okay, we're back. Oh. Hey, Nicole. Just on a break. Oh. Okay, so what chapter are we on? Chapter 8. Which, in my book, says... Untitled... Oh, you won't be able to see it. But it says, Untitled Document. 1 day more passed, a day that Lauren spent miserable after the wine from the night before. As the sun lowered in the sky, Zane came to sit with her in the common room between their chambers, and they discussed the road from the seat to Ammon. The wizard looked even worse for wear than she did. When night came and supper passed, they did not remain awake for long afterwards. Lauren would have relished one more night spent in pleasant company, but they would wake early the next day, and she would rather not be exhausted for the beginning of their voyage across the Great Bay. A palace servant roused them before dawn, and Lauren and Chet dressed together in silence. They shook Jem awake twice, and still he did not rise from his bed. In the end, Lauren lost patience and threw a pitcher of water on him. Zane awakened too and left with them so that he could say a final farewell before they set sail. In the palace courtyard, they found a carriage waiting, and it took them quickly to the western docks. It was the same place they had landed just weeks before, as fugitives and refugees. They had risen far since then. Short scene or chapter? What do you mean, Cluny Man? They had risen far since then. Now the dean of the academy was there to see them off, and to their delight, so was the Lord Prince. Eamon awaited them in the dim gray glow just before dawn, and stepped forwards with a smile as they clambered down from the carriage. Farewell, Chet of the family Lindell, and Jem of the family Noctis. Farewell, Nightblade. I would have a promise from you that the next time we see each other, you will tell me the tale of that time you met the elves, eh? Lauren bowed deep. I give you my word, your highness. Your highness, yes, correct. Oh yeah, it's a chapter that consists of 2 scenes, which is why it says untitled document in here, because I didn't format this ebook correctly. This is obviously not the published ebook. Eamon's smile widened. Then he withdrew, and Zane took his place. He and Chet clasped wrists, with Chet regarding the wizard silently. I was not myself when first we met, said Zane. You have shown yourself to be nothing but an honorable man, yet in the course of your travels I have given you no great cause to love me. I wish you well on the roads ahead, and beg that you may think of me better than I mayhap deserve. Promise me that you will care for Lauren. That I will do, promise or no, said Chet. Farewell here upon the island, Zane. I may not love you, but you have proven yourself an honorable man as well, in the end. Dwarves. When Zane went to Jem, the boy put his hands on his hips and sniffed. Farewell, wizard. I suppose you have proven not to be such a poor traveling companion, though sometimes we're better than others. Zane chuckled. I wish, my boy, that you were a wizard, for it would be my pleasure to oversee your instruction personally. As it is, my days will be emptier of laughter until we meet again. You know what I just realized that I should resolve at some point, just to get this off of anybody else's minds as well as my own? Jem never got tested for magic. Like, this just made me think of it right now. Jem never got tested for magic. He's not a wizard. I'm just going to say that right now, because I know that some people are like, wait, he never got tested? Does that mean he could be He's not a wizard. Period. He just is not. But he never got tested. Like, he should get tested for magic. It's shocking to me that he hasn't but as soon as they got to the high king seat, he didn't like insist on getting tested. Maybe that should happen in Yaren. No, but like his character now, like I'm only just now thinking about this, but his character should totally have demanded that he get tested when he arrived at the seat. You know, as soon as they had a second to breathe. because they talked about getting tested in Shadeborn. But of course, Jem had no opportunity to do so. So in Yeren, it could be brought up again. And then it could happen in Yeren. Yeah. Yeah, we'll probably make that happen in Yeren. But Igazilla, he is 11. No, like I firmly established when I created the character, he does not have magic. I'm just saying that it doesn't make sense that the character hasn't demanded to get tested. And the only reason that hasn't happened is because I didn't think of it when I was writing the book. That's all I'm saying. God, I wish I hadn't even brought this up. It never crossed my mind to give him magic. I knew from the beginning he was not a wizard. I'm saying that he, as a character, should have demanded that he get tested as soon as he arrived on the seat. At which point, he would have gotten tested and discovered he had... Jem seemed to enjoy the thought of being a wizard very much, for his eyes shone. All pretense of bravado fell from him, and he leapt forwards to give Zane an awkward hug around the waist before scampering bashfully away and towards the ship. Only Lauren remained, and they looked at each other in silence. They had said all they needed to at the top of the Academy's bell tower. In the end, she seized him in a great bear hug, and he squeezed her back, though his arms were far weaker. "Farewell, Lauren," he said. "Remember Jordell. And you. Farewell." Untitled document! The mystics awaited them on board the ship, and the captain set sail almost the moment they had boarded. Too many boardeds. The mystics awaited them on the ship, and the captain set sail almost the moment they had boarded. Thus began their journey to Ammon, and a miserable journey it was. Winter had come at last to Underrealm, well and truly, and storms racked their vessel all the way to the southern coast of Feldamar. Lauren and Chet spent most of their time on their bunk, which could hardly have been less private, for it was only one of 8 beds in the same. It was only one bed of 8 in the same cabin. Jem was in the room with them for the larger part of the journey, curled miserably under his blanket. He had not been overly prone to seasickness in the past, but this voyage was unlike either they had taken together before. No, I did never rage quit the stream. After 6 days of sailing, they docked at a town on Feldamar's southern shore, and there they rested overnight. Lauren noticed... I did rage quit a stream once, but not because of anybody in chat. I rage quit because I was like, I can't do editing. I can't do the restoration edits on stream because it just made me too angry. But then I kind of got over it, or got over myself, or something like that. That's the only time that I rage quit. And I rage quit for a few days, and I did work off stream, and then I sort of got over it. Lauren noticed a curious tension in the town that she did not understand at first, but then she realized that they were perilously close to the kingdom of Dulmoon, the kingdom that had risen in treason against the High King. Though Dulmoon had taken no military action since their assault on the seat, most believed it was only a matter of time before the seafaring kingdom made war again, and coastal towns like this would likely be among their first targets. The day after they landed, Naya purchased horses for all of them with a purse of coins that had been given to her upon the seat. They had brought none. They had brought no mounts of their own. They had brought no mounts with them, for moving steeds by boat was most difficult with the strength of winter's storms. Lauren was glad she had sent her horse Midnight to Ammon before her journey to the High King's seat. Their reunion was one more thing to look forward to when Lauren reached Jordell's home at last. Their road north through Feldamar was hardly any more cheery than the ocean voyage had been. Gandalf is far more powerful than Dumbledore. It's not even... They're not even on the same, like, order of power. Gandalf is literally a lesser god. Clooney man, Gandalf could absolutely have killed could have killed Smaug. He was literally forbidden from killing Smaug. He was not allowed to interfere with Smaug. Just like he probably could have kicked Sauron's ass, but he was not allowed to. Like, just for a reference, like a Balrog would wipe the floor with a dragon. It's not even funny how much stronger a Balrog is than a dragon. But the Balrog was bound, basically, in a manner of speaking, the Balrog was bound by the same rules as Gandalf, and it was breaking those rules, which is why Gandalf was allowed to fight the Balrog. It was okay for him to do that because the Balrog wasn't supposed to be there, by the same rules that Gandalf was not allowed to. All right, later, Kristen. Manwë, the eldest god on Middle Earth, forbid Gandalf. And yeah, along with the other council of the gods, the Middle Earth god pantheon, but mostly Manwë. Do. They had brought none for moving steeds by boat was most They had brought no mounts of their. They had brought no mounts with them for moving steeds by boat was most difficult with the strength of winter's storms. Lauren was glad she had sent her horse Midnight to Ammon before her journey to the High King's seat. Their reunion was one more thing to look forward to when Lauren reached Jordell's home at last. Their road north through Feldamar was hardly any more cheery than the ocean voyage had been. The kingdom proved to be a wet and marshy land where the air was muggy despite the cold of winter. It did not snow here, but that was little comfort, for it rained heavily and always. Often the roads would be flooded or covered by mudslides, causing long delays. Thus, a journey that should have taken them 4 days on horseback took 7 instead. When they camped for the night or stopped for a midday meal, there was little conversation beyond what was necessary to build camp, but Lauren did snatch some tidbits of information from the mystics they rode beside, particularly the new ones. She learned that Shion was a woman of Dulmoon, an awkward fact considering that nation's treachery, but she had left that land when she was a young girl and had spent the last many years in the southwestern reaches of Underrealm. Uzo hailed from Feldamar and seemed the least uncomfortable with the heavy rains that pelted them. It was the way of winter in this land, he told them, and this was far from the worst storms he had seen growing up. Weath and Gwyneth were from... Not and Gwyneth. Weath. Weath was from Selvin, while Jormund was a man of Calenton. That caught Lauren's attention. Gandalf is a wizard, who is also a demigod. Hey, thanks for the host, Grover. Much appreciated. Ugh. Truly, she said, but you are a swordsman. Why do you not use the bow? You know something of our archers, then, said Jormund, flashing his easy grin. But a whole kingdom cannot stand back and fire upon their enemies from afar, for then they would be in grave trouble should those enemies ever get too close. And besides, I am too large to be an archer. When they put a bow in my hands as a boy, it snapped to kindling when I drew it. He laughed. Jem's eyes went wide, but Lauren leaned close and said, he is joking. She had meant to be quiet, but Jormund heard her. I am not, he insisted. Give me your own bow if you do not believe me, and I will show you. Lauren declined. Naya proved more reticent to speak of herself. When Lauren asked the land from which she hailed, she said only Wadeland, but she did not have the look of one from that kingdom, and she told them nothing of how she came to join the Mystics. Lauren thought at first to press her for the tale, but soon realized that this was neither the time nor the place. She herself did not enjoy speaking of her childhood in the Birchwood, particularly when it came to her parents. But that did not quell her curiosity about the mystic woman, a curiosity she admitted to herself that was stoked to greater heights by the intense, smoldering look she often saw in Naya's eye when the woman thought she was not looking. Mayhap, Lauren decided, she would be able to learn more once they reached Ammon. Jem tried often to get Uzo to drill with him, for the boy still practiced the sword stances Jordell had taught him in the Great Rocks many months ago. He was much better at the forms now, and his arms had begun to fill out with his constant practice, but Uzo seemed to regard Jem as little more than an annoyance, and only joined in his training with great reluctance. Over and over again he trounced the boy, but Jem always sprang up off the ground beaming. "You're a great warrior indeed," he said one evening, after Uzo had thrashed him thoroughly. Uzo raised an eyebrow. "Greater than a boy with almost no practice? Stay your praise, for my pride cannot bear to be stoked any more." Jem laughed as though that were a great joke. Oh, poor little Jem. Yay for dinking around on the internet. One by one, Lauren followed the landmarks that Zane had laid out for her on the route that would take them to Ammon. Sometimes they were easily found and lay beside wide roads that were well kept. Other times they led her off into unbroken land where there was nothing but thin goat trails to go by. But at last, after 7 days, they came upon a wide plateau with a hill atop it in the middle of a flat grassland, and upon that plateau was the stronghold of Ammon. It was an impressive sight from the first, even when it was only a shape on the horizon that she could cover with her thumb. As they drew closer, they could see that it was built in 3 levels. First, a high wall that rimmed the edges of the plateau, from which there was only a single gate at the top of a ramp leading down. The middle wall, halfway up the hill, had 2 gates and what looked like several structures built inside for the housing of troops. Finally, the keep itself sat upon the hill's crown. It looked large enough to house 1,000 troops in comfort. As they neared, the plateau seemed to grow larger and larger, and the stronghold with it, so that Lauren felt smaller the closer she drew. Leagues away, they knew they had been spotted when they heard the clarion peal of horns signaling their approach. Soon after, they reached the bottom of the ramp and felt eyes upon them all the way up. But when they reached the top, the gate was still closed. There, on the wall just above them, was an old man with a long white beard, wrapped in the red cloak of the mystic. Lauren recognized him, of course, for they had met only 2 weeks before. He was Cal of the family Endil, and he looked just as severe as the first time she had laid eyes upon him. "Who approaches the stronghold of Ammon, home of the family Adair?" said Cal. "Lauren of the family Nelda, Nightblade of the High King," said Lauren. "But you know that already, and it is raining, so be quick and open the gate." Cal scowled, but he turned to the men in the gatehouse and gave a nod. The drawbridge began to lower as they bent to the wheel, bridging the gap between the top of the ramp and the portcullis leading into the first level of the fortress. Deciding on book covers. You need to research. You need to do as much research as you possibly can. You need to research your genre. You need to research your audience. You need to know your target audience. That is so important on any marketing that anybody does. And so many people skip by it. And that should not be a thing that they do. You need to name a target audience, I guess is a better way to put it. But if you don't do that, it's very difficult to know how to market and know how to well, here's an example, right? Target audience for the Underrealm books, women between the ages of 18 and 30, with high school to college education, high school to some college education, around in that vein, with liberal tendencies, and obviously huge fucking nerds, right? Like that's my target audience. So with that being my target audience, which has been very clearly defined since I first started writing these books, with that as my target audience, how is this a good book cover? Answer: it is not. This is a woman who looks like the bitchy mean girl in high school. Sorry, let me rephrase that, because bitchy is a word that I don't like to use. But the popular mean girl in high school, not the, I'm not saying like the I'm just saying the one that was mean, right? She's wearing, she's all super made up like a runway model, and she's doing the boobs and butt pose. That is clearly a male desired person. So why is that a good book cover? It isn't, right? So that's not to say that it is a bad book. Well, it's also not illustrated, which fantasy is supposed to be. So that comes into researching your genre, right? But that exact same cover, illustrated, still would have been a bad book cover because that woman is designed to satisfy a male gaze. And the cover designer who did that cover makes covers that are really good at capturing the male gaze. Because guess what? The people that she designs covers for write for men primarily. That's the main thing. So even their sci-fi covers are designed for the male gaze. Even when they don't have a woman on the cover, it's designed to make the men look powerful and commanding and in control. And when there is a woman on the cover, she's fucking hot. So of course the cover designer would do that for my books. That's what she does. The new cover also accurately depicts her age. And Clooney Man, so I know that you're probably being facetious, but target audience, male, female, ages 13 to 99. So that is just on the off chance that you're serious or that somebody else takes you seriously. That is way too general. And anybody who says, no, but my target audience is everyone. Like my books have a universal appeal. No, they don't. They just don't. Like that sucks. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you that, but they don't. And you can't think that they do, because even if you're right, even if you have the next Harry Potter, right, which like does have the closest thing that you could say to like universal appeal, you'll never get it in front of everyone. You'll never, that book will have to be carried into universal appeal by the audience that you market it to. And the Harry Potter books, the Harry Potter book covers are not marketed to men in their late 20s, which is what mid 20s, I get. No, shit. Early 20s. Men in their early 20s, which is me when I read the books. Late teens? Was I in my late teens when I read Harry Potter? Jesus Christ. But they're not marketed to late teenage men, boys. They're not. They got there because of the universal appeal, but they knew these were books that are ostensibly written for kids. Yeah, universal appeal and all that sort of shit. But their marketing was designed to go to... No, a book cannot be marketed to people of all ages. Because the very fact that my books are marketed towards women between the ages of 18 and 30, because the books are marketed towards my audience, means that they are less appealing to men. But that doesn't matter, because I'm not writing fantasy for men, because every fucking buddy does that. Why is my thing... It's not that there's anything on my cover that specifically turns men off. I mean, not in a sexual way. I'm just saying, like, there's not anything, there's not like a stop sign on my cover that says, you know, men, and then a big circle with an X across it. But it is not designed to appeal to men, and I'm okay with that. Because if I did make Lauren hot, that would be not marketing to the audience that I actually want. So you do have to make, you have to make a decision for yourself. You have to choose, this is my audience, this is who I'm appealing to, and this is what I am doing to appeal to them. And you have to face the reality of the situation that you cannot market to all audiences effectively. I don't know what TWOS is. Grover. In my case, I mean, I guess it's a little bit complicated, but like, I didn't exactly I guess I kind of decided on the audience first. I decided on the type. I guess I decided on the story first. But like to me, the story was always kind of inextricably linked. Because what I said was, I want to write fantasy that's not so fucking white and male and like Tolkien. All of the good people are white. And everybody who does everything like super important is men, except for one woman who is regarded as extremely exceptional because she's a woman who did this significant thing in the story. Like, that's very Tolkien, and all the other fantasy, that's the major tent poles of fantasy have all come like since, right? And I was like, that's so boring. And there's so many other good fantasy stories that could be told. Or you could just tell that same story, but just like let black people exist. Let women be people with agency. Like, let's create this society. And then once I realized that that was the story that I wanted to tell, it was pretty damn obvious that my audience was going to be vastly different from the general fantasy stories. I don't think that. So again, Clooney Man, having a woman on the cover is not what draws female readers. It is a thing that draws female readers, but it's the type of woman, right? Having a man on the cover, having a real good looking guy, and I mean a good looking guy, will draw in female readers. Having some super ripped jack dude with his shirt off and I'm talking like super jacked and like a gun in his arms and like an explosion behind him is not going to attract women. It is going to attract guys, and the guys are going to be like, that guy looks so cool and I bet he can sleep with whoever he wants. That's a male power fantasy. That is not a female that is not a man who women actually like find attractive. That is a man who men think can have any women he wants, right? It's the difference between male power fantasy and like object of sexual desire. So same thing with a woman. Having a woman on the cover, if she is doing the boobs and butt pose, if she's all like, that doesn't appeal to women. It appeals to men. Hey, what's up, Nicole? Welcome back. Male sense. Best Freudian slip of the stream. Not Freudian slip, but you know what I mean. I guess it's technically called a Freudian slip, but I always think of those as super sexual. Oh, do. I would advise you to be more careful with your manners, muttered Weath beside her, though Lauren could see the wizard was hiding a smile. I have known the Chancellor for many years, and while he is not a stickler for ceremony, he sees great value in military decorum. I see greater value in a warm bed, especially now, said Lauren. I will not be kept huddling outside his fortress in the rain because I have not saluted to his liking. When the drawbridge slammed into place, they walked their horses across it. Cal had descended to the courtyard and waited within, backed by a household guard of mystic knights. Lauren dismounted before him and gave a curt bow, pulling her gloves from her hands. Well met, Cal of the family Endil. And you, Nightblade. If you will follow me, there is much to... But a high-pitched squeal cut him off, and from between Cal's mystics came a black and silver streak. It was Annis in a dark dress that she had hitched up to run full tilt, and she flung herself into Lauren's arms with a scream. Lauren shouted in joy and hoisted her up in the air, and Jem launched himself from the saddle where he had been sitting behind Chet, tackling them both so that they all fell to the ground. He covered Annis's cheeks with kisses, and she laughed as she tried to hug him and Lauren at the same time. Tears poured down the girl's cheeks, and Lauren found it hard to keep her own restrained. Sky above, barked Cal. Are you servants of the High King or children in truth? Get up, for if you have all day to roll about in the mud like pups, I do not. Lauren rolled her eyes, but she got up and pulled the children with her. But Annis and Jem did not let go of each other. Very well, said Lauren. We are weary after our journey. If you will show us to our quarters, we will take our rest, and you may go about your business. Rest must wait, said Cal. As I had begun to explain, you and I have much to discuss. Stepping aside, he waved her on with a wide sweep of his arm. Lauren sighed, hoping their discussion would be brief, for she was indeed weary and sick of the rain besides. But just as she stepped past Cal, she froze in her tracks. In the group of mystics who stood there was a man who looked to be from Wadeland. His hair was black and cropped close to the scalp, and a scar split his chin. He wore a red cloak now, but when last she had seen him, he had been dressed in the gray and blue of a shade, and he had stood behind Damaris in her dream. "Lauren," said Chet behind her, "is something the matter?" The man was looking at her oddly, and did she catch a trace of fear in his eye? Lauren tore her gaze away from him and looked at Chet. "No, nothing," she said. "Only I am tired and my mind went far away. But I am sure the Chancellor does not care for our weariness. Come, let us accompany him before he bursts with his impatience." Cal growled something inaudible, and Chet snickered as they followed him onwards. But Lauren stole a brief glance behind her. Mayhap she imagined it, but she thought she saw the man swallow with relief as she passed him by. Chapter 8 done. I have to potty real quick, and then I want to say a little bit more about marketing and targeting specific demographics. But I'll be right back. So, realize that we are talking here about marketing, okay? We're not talking about your book. We're not talking about the content of your book. We're not talking about your story, okay? It is much easier for a story to be inclusive and to be appealing to lots of people than it is for marketing to be inclusive and appealing to a lot of people. An old person can really enjoy the Boxcar Children a lot. They're simple stories. They're well told. The characters are interesting. They're the Boxcar Children. They're good, right? John Green loves the Babysitter's Club books. I read like one or two of them and they were fine. I don't have like a particular attachment to them. But John Green loves the Babysitter's Club books. They're fine stories. They're written well, etc., etc. Marketing is different because if the Babysitter's Club tried to market to John Green, a 40-something-year-old man, the Babysitter's Club would fail miserably. Somebody that the Babysitter's Club marketing is designed to appeal to can bring the book to John Green, or could have brought it to him when he was much younger or whatever, and he could say, "I'll give it a shot," and he can read it, and it can appeal to him in that way. But if the Babysitter's Club marketed to, specifically to, things that are going to appeal to and hit the subconscious buttons of John Green, the Babysitter's Club book series would fail miserably. Okay? Same thing with Underrealm, with my books. A lot of white guys really like the Underrealm books, myself included, right? But if I geared my marketing towards straight white guys, I would fail miserably. Whereas if I gear it towards, women, particularly women of color who might be on the LGBT spectrum, maybe if I gear it towards them, I can hit marketing buttons that will make them interested in my books. And they are, just in general, in terms of percentages and all that sort of stuff, they are more likely to enjoy my books. And when they're more likely to enjoy them, they're more likely to talk about them and share them with other people, etc., etc. And that becomes the foundation of my success that then spreads to white guys. And a lot of them will recommend it to their friends and all that sort of stuff. But if you say target audience, men or women between the ages of 18 and 99, you will not sell to anybody. You just won't. And if you say, all right, well, I want to hit women, but I want to hit all women. I want to target women with my marketing. Sorry, I could have phrased that a whole lot better. But if you say, I want to target women, I want to market to women, but all women, I don't care what age they are. I don't care what race they are. Again, you'll probably fail miserably, because an image on a cover that is going to be appealing to a woman between the ages of 18 and 30 is not necessarily going to be appealing to a woman between the ages of 35 and 50. Because if a 50-year-old woman sees my cover of Nightblade right back there with Lauren, clearly a very young girl, and everything like that. I mean, I don't pretend to, have like gotten in the heads of, middle-aged women across the country, but like you can imagine how they might say, oh my God, how stupid we all are when we're that age, or like I was so dumb at that age, and I would much rather read a story about a woman slightly younger than myself who finds this like epic romantic relationship or something like that, rather than being some 15-year-old girl who goes on adventures. Whereas a young woman between the ages of 18 and 30 who's this huge, a super fucking nerd is going to look at that cover and be like, oh man, I wish I could have gone on adventures when I was a little bit younger than I am right now. You get what I mean? So it's a very specific market, Grover. And simultaneously, the cover that's going to appeal to a woman between the ages of 35 and 50 probably isn't going to appeal to a woman between the ages of 18 and 30. At different stages of their life, they want different things. Different things hit different buttons with them, And it was just like, yeah, contemporary YA. You went through high school. You didn't particularly enjoy it. You didn't want to read about it. I feel like a lot of people, well, there's different types of contemporary YA, right? But I feel like there's a lot of YA out there that is marketed to people who had a great time in high school, Like everything was fine in high school, and they want to talk about, like, they want YA novels about, like, oh, the glory days of high school and yada yada yada. And then there's like, okay, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, What a title. Holy shit. Hey, were you a wimpy kid in middle school or high school? I actually have never read that book, so I don't know. But like, were you a wimpy kid? Were you like, did people make fun of you? Were you a nerd? Did you get beat up? All that sort of stuff. Here is such the book for you. And even if you're a little bit older, you probably want to read that because you're like, oh God, do I know what that's like? Whereas like the jocks of high school and everything like that, they're like, why the fuck would I want to read the diary about some wimpy kid? Some nerd, right? But if you made a book that appealed to those same people who were jocks and popular kids in high school, the nerds aren't going to want to read it because they don't want to relive their shitty high school days. So there you go. The bottom line is not that you don't want to target more than one audience with your marketing. It's that, to a degree, you can't. Because they are mutually exclusive, the different audiences and the different buttons and targets that you can hit. Okay? All right. So we'll carry on. Chapter 9. Cal took little notice of Lauren's hesitation and pressed quickly on until they had reached the keep atop the plateau. Pachette took her arm and drew her back a pace and leaned in to whisper, "What was it? You looked as though you had seen an elf." Lauren shook her head. "I am not certain. We should speak of it later." Inwardly, she was not even certain what she would tell him. She knew nothing of the man she had seen. They had never met, so far as she could recall. All she knew was that he had been in her dream, dressed as a shade. Should she even try to do anything about it? As part of her wanted to believe it was a coincidence, but another part knew that was foolish. It was not exactly a common thing to see something in a dream only to see it later in the waking world. And then she thought of the rest of that dream, Damaris and Chet's death and Jem's teeth raised to her throat. No, there was some explanation for this. There must be. Cal stopped short, and Lauren was so absorbed in thought that she nearly ran into him. He threw open a door in the hall and drew her into a small council room. Two mystics took up positions of guard on either side of the room. Lauren was relieved to see that neither of them was the dark-haired stranger from her dream, but when the rest of Lauren's party started to follow them in, Cal waved his hands at them like they were cats. "Off with you, all except Lauren. My men will see you to your lodgings, such as they are. You knights will receive your assignment in time. The rest of you may sit on the ramparts until the rain has pierced you through, for all I care. Go." They went, with Chet giving Lauren one last worried look before the door closed between them. But it was not until Lauren turned to Cal in the center of the room that she saw Annis had remained. Cal acted as though it were the most normal thing in the world. In fact, he hardly seemed to notice the girl. He had eyes only for Lauren, and he seized his long beard in his fingers as he narrowed his eyes at her. "You certainly took your time to get here," he said. Lauren blinked. "I beg your pardon? I came here by the route that was given to me." "Aye, and weeks after the attack upon the seat," said Cal. "When the High King ordered me." Cal snorted. "If we all waited for orders, the 9 kingdoms would already have fallen to ruination. Everyone moves too slowly by half, and even the High King is no exception." Unbidden, a flush of anger rose to Lauren's cheeks. "You should not speak ill of your liege lord." "Criticism should never be forbidden, least of all when it comes to kings," said Cal. "If a few more had been brave enough to speak against the wizard kings in their day, how many dark wars might have been avoided? But enough of this. I did not call you here to bandy words of politics and philosophy. Tell me of your journey and what came before it upon the seat." "A moment," said Lauren. "First, I saw someone in your courtyard, a young man not much older than I, with dark hair and a scar that split his chin. Who is he?" She was not displeased to see Cal frown in confusion, caught off guard by the question. Behind him, Annis's eyes narrowed with interest. "Huel? What of him?" He looks familiar." Cal snorted. "That is hardly possible. I have known him since he was a boy in Wadeland, and he has been stationed here since first he joined the Mystics. He was not with me when we met in Brecker. If you have taken a fancy to him, that is not a matter I wish to give you any counsel upon whatsoever." It was Lauren's turn to be caught off guard, and she grew even angrier as she blushed anew. "I told you I only thought he had an odd look." If she had thought for a moment to tell him of her dream, that impulse vanished. "Forget my soldiers and their odd looks, and tell me of the attack upon the seat," said Cal. She did, at least in brief. When she spoke of some of the details of the battle, Annis's eyes went wide with shock and fear, especially when Lauren told how she had brought the city gate crashing down to crush Lauren. Then Cal had her tell him everything that had come after, when those who lived upon the seat had fled to Selvin and then returned, and finally when Enelin had assigned her to Cal's service. She told him of the journey to Ammon as well, though he seemed to have little interest in that, and only studied the map that was laid out on his table, running his fingers through his beard in thought. Very well, he muttered when she had finished. "It is good you have come, even if it took you an age. I find myself with more duties than I can easily assume, especially after the High King named me Master of Spies." "Ha! A useless title if ever there was one. She wishes for me to work for her in secret, yet because she names my position, I am known more widely than before, and secrecy comes scarce." Lauren felt that they must be coming to the heart of the matter now. "If you cannot act in secret, then let me act in your stead. What would you have me do?" It was Annis who answered her, and once again Lauren was surprised as Cal let the girl speak without interruption. "The answer to that is not entirely certain. Just now the 9 kingdoms are in a precarious position. The way that people perceive this war is even more important than the next battle. We've been trying to devise ways to sway the minds of the people rather than outmaneuver our enemy on the field, for we are not generals. The High King's subjects, as well as her enemies, must see that she is resolved and capable, and that the kingdoms are unified behind her. None of the other kingdoms must be tempted to join with Dulmoon." That made Lauren balk. Would any of them do so? The treason of one kingdom is hard enough to believe. I cannot imagine that others would break their oaths. To Lauren's great annoyance, Cal and Annis looked at each other and rolled their eyes in unison. "If that is true, why have the other kingdoms been so slow to answer Enelin's call?" That should be its own paragraph. If that is true, why have the other kingdoms been so slow to answer Ennelin's call, said Annis. Oh, Selvin is with her, for she hails from that land. Dorsey was quick to bend the knee. No doubt they feared her reprisal after the Battle of Welmont. Hedgeman, too, has pledged their strength, but that is an easy oath to keep, for they could not be farther away from the war itself. But where is Feldemar? Where are Wadeland and Idris and Wavemount? In days to come, their kings will no doubt claim that the High King's messengers were delayed by winter storms, or that their own messengers had been slow to return. Yet the truth is that they hesitate. And if even one of them joins Dolmoon, the hesitation of the rest will only increase, and then we will have a true war on our hands, one that cannot be quelled easily. All of this was a bit beyond Lauren. In truth, she was shocked to hear Anna speak of it all so plainly. Speak of it so plainly as though it were second nature. Her gaze lingered on the younger girl. Cal saw it, and a wry smile lifted one corner of his mouth. She is impressive, is she not? At first I will admit that I was dismayed to be saddled with the girl, but she has proven herself to have an uncanny mind for strategy. Annis's dark cheeks turned darker still, and she lowered her gaze demurely, but Lauren saw the grin she could not banish. Very well, said Lauren. I will leave such lofty matters to your hands, for the two of you seem more than capable of dealing with them. Yet my question remains, what shall I do? If I have my way, you will be used to set an example, said Cal. Those who have acted against the High King must be brought to justice, and the more powerful the enemy we can lay low, the better. Do you know of any mighty enemy who might serve such a purpose? His eyes narrowed. Lauren felt a chill steal up her back, and her heart turned to ice. You mean to send me after Rogan? Yes, said Cal, nodding slowly. No one knows where he is, but we must find him. Tales have spread throughout Underrealm of this warrior, the man no one can kill, who leads the armies that march against the High King. He's not the only one of his kind, said Lauren. We defeated another in the Great Rocks, one named Triskin. I would not doubt that there are more. I would not doubt that there are more. I would not doubt that there are more in the service of the necromat. Hist! Cried Cal, slamming his hand down on the tabletop. He looked at the door, almost fearfully. Do not speak of such things where others may hear you. Lauren arched an eyebrow. I thought you trusted your soldiers, Cal. Besides, his name is not unknown. I proclaimed it freely enough before the High King when I was brought to her throne room. Hist. Hist indeed. Some knowledge, I trust my men, and I am responsible for their safety. Some knowledge is dangerous, something I know Jordell taught you, or tried to, though it is clear you did not heed the lesson. That hurt Lauren more than she wished to show him, and so she lowered her head over the map. A thought came to her, and she pursed her lips. It seems clear, then, what purpose you intend for me. Yet you seem to speak of dark deeds. I told the High King that I would not kill in her name, and she vowed never to command me to do so. Are you a fool, or have you not been listening? Said Cal. I do not wish for you to murder Rogan. That would accomplish little. Our display of the High King's power must be as public as possible, and well within the law. We do not mean to kill him in darkness and shadow. He must be captured, and the King's justice brought down upon him in such a way that word of it will spread as far as his exploits in battle. That sounded far more palatable to Lauren, and in fact, now that she thought of it, it sounded just like the stories of Menet, the ancient thief of legend from whom Lauren had drawn her first daydreams of becoming a thief. Menet had never killed, but when a noble or great merchant was unjust and cruel to those who served them, Menet would bring the king's justice down upon them without ever swinging the sword himself. Well and good, said Lauren, then my oath is intact. When do I begin? You are too eager by half, Cal grumbled, and I have told you already that I do not know. If we knew where Rogan lurked, I would have acted already. I have learned what I need from you. Go, find your friends and settle into your lodgings. I will send for you again when I know our next step. He turned from her and bent over the map. Lauren turned to make for the door. Too many turns, too much turning. He bent over the map. Lauren turned to make for the door, but she paused upon seeing a pained look on Annis's face. Cal noticed the room's silence after a moment, and he looked up, frowning. When he saw Annis's anxious expression, he sighed. Very well, he growled. Spend this day in greetings and reunion if you wish, but I will expect you back on duty tomorrow. You shall have me, said Annis, barely restraining the glee in her voice. She ran towards Lauren, seizing her arm and drawing her out into the hallway. Chapter 10! Come, said Annis, eyes bright as she clutched Lauren's hand. I want to see the others. There it is. Burr Lauren pulled her. Heard Burr. But Lauren pulled her to a stop around the corner where no one was around to overhear. Where no one could overhear. Too many arounds. But Lauren pulled her to a stop around the corner where no one could overhear. In a moment. Annis, when did you become so wise in strategy that a chancellor of the Mystic Order would rely so strongly upon your counsel? Annis looked away bashfully. Oh, that is no great matter. No great matter. He had you by his side the way the High King keeps the Lord Prince near her. The hallway grew quiet as Annis searched for words. Do you remember long ago when I told you of my mother and what she would invite me to do? Lauren's smile died as she nodded. Damaris of the family Yaren, Annis's mother, was a cruel and ruthless matron. To achieve her end, she had killed and tortured many, and when Annis was still a very little girl, Damaris had invited her to join in the violence. It was why Annis had been so desperate to escape her family when she and Lauren first met. I remember, said Lauren quietly. Well, she did not only draw me into her darker activities, said Annis. I was there, too, for all the business one would expect in a merchant family, supply lines and the movement of men from kingdom to kingdom and things of that sort. Well, after I came here to Ammon, I was bored nearly to tears. I thought I would go mad for want of something to do. Then, mayhap a week after I arrived, Cal sent for me. He drew me into his council chamber and asked me some questions of Yaren activities in Dorsey. I answered him, and more besides, for he was asking the wrong sorts of questions. Lauren frowned. What do you mean? Annis waved her hands as though she could pluck her explanation out of the air. It would have been better if you were there. He wanted to know why our holdings in Selvin were so much stronger than in Dorsey, since Dorsey borders more of the 9 kingdoms than Selvin. He did not understand that Selvin, though it may be farther from the other kingdoms as the bird flies, is yet more deeply connected because of its wealth and its relationship to the High King, with whom all curry favor, and that trade routes are therefore more easily... Quickly, Lauren waved her hands. Never mind. I'm sorry I asked. Go on with your story. Well, I went on that way for some time, and when I paused to take a breath, I saw a strange look in Cal's eyes. I cannot think he has had many dealings with anyone from a merchant family before, for I did not tell him any great secrets of trade or commerce, but only the simplest truths we are taught as very young children. In any case, after that he began inviting me to many of his strategy sessions. I think you spoke in jest before, but I suppose I am a part of his council. A smile came to Lauren unbidden, and she clapped a firm hand on Annis's shoulder. Well, I, for one, am glad. You seemed at ease and confident, happier, mayhap, than I have seen you since after Cabras. Annis giggled. I think I am. I have always thought of such things as a game, which my tutors did not favor, I can assure you, though they could not argue that I learned my lessons regardless, and it has earned me some small amount of renown among the mystics who dwell here. Lauren's smile widened, but mention of the mystics made her think of the dark young man from the courtyard, who Cal had said was named Huel. Her good mood evaporated. As for that, do you know many of the soldiers in Ammon? Have you met them and learned anything about them? Not very much, said Annis, shrugging. Why do you ask? Her dream flashed before her eyes, but how could she explain that? No, nothing. Pay me no mind. Annis's eyes narrowed, and the girl crossed her arms over her chest. You asked Cal something of this, did you not? What is your interest in this Huel fellow? Lauren grimaced. She had forgotten how sharp and observant Annis could be, and always at the most inopportune times. It is no great matter, or I do not believe so, but if it should become important, I will tell you before anyone else, other than Chet, of course. I love that phrase. I love that phrase. I love that it is so early in the books, and every time it gets repeated, the meaning is slightly different. I love that, and yeah. Does that satisfy you? I suppose, said Annis, though you make it all sound very mysterious, and that is rarely a good sign with you. The meaning of that, yeah. I could speak with Huel if you wish and try to learn what I... No, said Lauren, far more sharply than she had intended. She tried again, softening her tone. No, that is all right, but thank you. Annis's eyes shot wide, and for the first time the girl looked truly worried. Lauren, what is it? She whispered. Are we in any danger? Lauren thought of Chet's ruined throat and the feral look in Jem's eyes as he attacked her, but she forced a smile. No, of course not. We are in a stronghold of mystics, the greatest warriors in Underrealm. Where could we be safer? She could see that Annis was not entirely convinced, but she took the girl's arm and drew her on down the hallway. Come, you have hardly had a chance to speak with Jem, and though you might not care over much, Chet, too, wishes to see you. Not so much as he wishes to see you, I am sure, said Annis with a sigh. Are the two of you... Is it much the same as when I saw you last? A furious red sprang into Lauren's face. When last she had seen Annis, she and Chet had been chased, but now... That is not quite the same. Annis must have taken her meaning, for her mouth formed a small circle. I did not mean to... That is, forgive me for prying. Lauren could not help a laugh at that. Still the modest merchant's daughter, I see. It is not prying that worries me, only I did not wish to embarrass you. Yes, well, Annis looked thoroughly miserable through her bashfulness. Might we speak of something else? Mayhap our friends can distract us, said Lauren. She took Annis's hand and led her running and laughing down the hallway. Annis pointed the way to the stronghold's great dining hall, and there was Lauren's party, seated and eating a meal from the kitchens. Jem leapt to his feet at once and flung himself into Annis's arms, screaming with delight. Annis clutched at his shoulders and then pushed him away to look at him, and Lauren saw it. There in Annis's gaze was a pure and true love, even stronger mayhap than the way Lauren felt for Chet. Tears came freely to the girl's eyes as she smiled and clutched Jem to her again. But Jem only smiled and laughed, and Lauren saw no trace of the same feelings within him. Her high mood dampened for a moment. Chet gave Annis a warm enough greeting and then came to Lauren. He took her hand in his and led her to the table. I will fetch you some food. What did Cal wish to discuss with you? Lauren's mind returned to the council room and the mission Cal had given her. Just as Chet had warned on the High King's seat, she would soon hunt for Rogan. Her mood darkened and he saw it, but she only shook her head. There is time to discuss it later, she said. Let us wait until the happiness of this reunion is past. He frowned, and she feared he might press her, but then Annis sat beside Lauren and Jem on her other side, both of them talking animatedly, and in the face of their joy, Chet closed his mouth again and went to fetch Lauren her dinner, while Lauren picked up a knife and began to pick at her nails with it. Lauren picked up a knife and began to pick at her nails with it. That's a reference. It's a reference nobody has called me on yet. And here I will end my stream for the day. Well, for the afternoon. I will likely stream again soon, but I have some other stuff I have to take care of first. Oh, God, I have a long list of shit I need to do today. I didn't even finish writing my YouTube scripts today. Ha! Fun. And then I have so much other crap I have to do. All right, y'all. Nope, not Aragorn. It's another Underrealm thing. All will be revealed in time. Fuck, that one's not going to be revealed for a really long time, though. Anyway, there's another prominent character who does that all the time. All the time, all the time, all the time. Loot to do. All right, y'all. That's the stream for now. Got a couple of hours working. We'll do some more later. Thanks for coming by, hanging out. Sorry I missed a day. Things to do. Lots of things happening all the time. I hate waiting. Okay, Inigo Montoya. Yeah, but I'll be back probably later today. Definitely be back tomorrow. Tomorrow's Saturday, so yeah. Sometimes we skip Sundays. I might do Sunday, but I'll definitely be back tomorrow for a little bit. I'll be around tonight, and I look forward to seeing you all. Thanks so much for coming and hanging out. Catch you another time. Bye!